Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we've got the most extraordinary puzzle, I think, for you today. I've read the rules to this just now before I turned the webcam on, and I am absolutely nonplussed as to how this Sudoku can exist. Now, we've seen miracle Sudokus many times on the channel before, never like this one. I've not been warned that this is a miracle type Sudoku. I'm slightly surprised about that because it is bonkers. It's completely crazy. It's called Mediocrity, and it's by Fuchsia, a name I've got to be quite careful when I pronounce. But yeah, basically we've just got a couple of clones in the grid. Not big clones, mind you, dominoes, some white Kropki dots, and some inequality signs, and that's it. That's it, and that's all that we get to produce a unique solution. That is absolutely mind-bending. And yeah, I'll read you the rules in just a second, but I'm quite excited today because this arrived this morning. Let me try and show you. This has been a very long time in the making. This is our book, obviously, and finally it is here in my hands. And it's so beautiful. I'm going to try and show you on the screen some of the pages just so that you can see. I mean, the art is gorgeous, the layout's gorgeous, the puzzles are obviously to die for. Even the smell of the book is gorgeous. There's even some presents in the back of the book here. And yeah, it's just, I cannot tell you how satisfying it is to have it in my hands and to see, that it really is everything I thought it would be if it was done really, really well. So yeah, I'm thrilled with it, and I'm desperate to see how all of those of you who supported it on the Kickstarter and who are awaiting your books, how you find it. So it shouldn't be long now before it's in your hands, and that is really, really terrific. And if you do fancy a copy, and why wouldn't you, you can still pre-order it actually on the Kickstarter link. I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen. Now, the other news I've got to tell you today is that in about 90 minutes time, assuming this video comes out on time as usual at 8:30 UK time, so at around 10 o'clock UK time tonight, I am going to be attempting to stream myself playing a game called The Witness, which is a game many of you have recommended and asked me to play on video or on stream for about 2 years. That's exactly what I'm going to try and do. Yeah, wish me luck. I think the technology ought to work. I'm not sure about my response to motion sickness, but we shall see. So if you want to be alerted when that stream is starting, it's going to be a YouTube stream. Then I think what you have to do, if you haven't already, is to click the bell icon. So when you subscribe to a channel on YouTube, you can click the subscribe button, and that will sort of recommend you videos from the channel every now and again. If you click the bell icon, you're basically emailed, I think, every time they do anything, and that includes live stream. So yeah, look out for that. I'll also try and tweet about it on Twitter later, which is @CrypticCracking. But I'm really looking forward to it because I've heard many great things about that game, and this is going to be my attempt to do it. Now, let's get to Fuchsia's puzzle and Mediocrity. I don't think there's anything mediocre about it, but let's read the rules. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Some cells have an inequality sign next to an edge, and these inequality signs point to the smaller digit of the cells that share that edge. Right, let's just stop there for a moment and check we understand that. So you can see there are 3 inequality signs in this cell, and they are next to, well, this edge here. So that's telling us this digit is lower than this digit. And this bottom inequality sign is telling us that this digit is lower than this digit. And obviously this digit is also less than this digit. So the inequality signs work basically exactly as we'd expect them to, I think. Dominoes of the same colour are clones. They have the same digit at the same position in the domino. So if this was a 6 and this was a 7, that would tell us that therefore this was a 6 and this was a 7, so that these clones looked identical. And then there's one more rule, which is that cells connected by a white dot contain consecutive digits. Not all possible white dots are given. So what that's telling us is that this domino here, if this was a 6, then this square would have to either be 5 to be consecutive with 6 or 7 to be consecutive with 6. And that's how white dots work. And not all white dots are given is just saying that it's absolutely fine, for example, for this domino to contain, I don't know, a 1 and a 2. they are consecutive, but where digits are consecutive, they don't need to have a white dot. It's just that we are told explicitly that those particular dominoes there are consecutive digits, and that is all the information that we get, which is ludicrous. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I'm really surprised that I haven't been sort of tipped the wink about this one in terms of the fact it is balmy. I'm not sure really where to start. What I have noticed is that the inequality signs are different, look, in every cloned position. Yeah, okay, so if you look at those two squares, this one is telling us that this needs to be a relatively large number because it's got to be greater than those 3 cells. Whereas this one, which is the same digit, is lower than those 2 squares. So, right, so if this was, what's the maximum this square could be? It couldn't be greater than 7. Because if it was 8, you'd have to put 9 and, say, 10 into those 2 digits, which won't work. So the maximum size of this cell is 7. And then from this one's perspective, its minimum size is 4. And it can't be 3 because then you'd have to go 1, 2 and 0 into those squares. So these 2 squares have a maximum of 7 and a minimum of 4. Sorry, I'm just pausing there because that does not seem to be nearly enough of a restriction. If I'm going to get all of these clone squares down to one of 4 digits, that's not going to get me very far. What on earth is going on? Sounds like Maverick's doing some chainsawing outside my window today. Apologies if you can hear that. I don't know what's going on there. I don't understand how I can restrict these anymore. Good grief. Let's look at the other one then. So this one is telling us that this is lower than 3 digits. So if this was 7, 8 and 9, which is the maximum we could put into those squares, this could be as high as 6. It can never be higher than 6. And then its equivalent here has to be greater than 2 digits. So it can never be lower than 3. So these two are 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s, I think. Wow. So these 2 digits here, which are lower than all their orthogonal... Right, okay, now I see what's going on. So, let's look at these 7 digits together. Because, what digits can we not include in these 7 digits? The answer is 1 and 2. Because these can't be 1 and 2, and we can never put 1 and 2 in any of those squares because they will be definitely they definitely won't be greater than what we've got in the orange clone. So those squares must be a 1-2 pair. And what does that mean? So that means I don't actually know what that means, do I? I don't think I do know what that means, sorry. I feel like I want to do something with 8s and 9s, but I don't see how to do that. No, okay, let's come back over here. Can we do anything up here? So this time we know those 2 are greater. Oh, I see. So the logic is sort of symmetrical, but in the other direction. So the question we should ask in this box is where do 8 and 9 go? Because they can't go in those 7 cells. Because these 2 are sort of the kingpins in this box. These are the most dominant cells, and they've got to be the highest digit of all of these. So we can't put 8 or 9 in any of those squares, and that must be an 8-9 pair. Aha! Now, right, okay. So now I have my first digit, which is this one, because the Kropki dot comes into its own. What can we put in this square, given it's got to be consecutive with 8 or 9? Well, we can't make this 9 now, because 9 only has 1 consecutive digit, and it's 8, and that's going to give this cell a problem. So this is 8, this is 9, and that must be 7. Which matters why. So now 7 has got to be... yeah, okay. Oh, that's so strange. Right, okay, in fact, I didn't even need this 7. All I had to do was... Yeah, we could just ask where 7 goes in that box. Because if we put 7 in any of those positions, that would be implying that one of these squares needed to be an 8 or a 9, which it can't be. So the only square in the box that now can be a 7 is that one, I think. And that's a clone, so that goes down here, where it's, oh, I see, which has got to be less than its 2 neighbours, so that's an 8-9 pair. And these squares have all got to be from... Yeah, these squares have got to be from 3, 4, 5 and 6, but this one has to be smaller than the other 3 digits, so it's the lowest digit. That's going to have to be 3, and these squares are going to have to be 4, 5 and 6, and this 3 means it bounces back in the clone up here, and that's greater than those 2 squares, which are now a 1 and a 2, and therefore those 3 squares are 4, 5 and 6. This is crazy. And now we can say that, what have we got now? We've got a 1, 2, 3 triple in row 1. So 3 is a little, well, it's not really very restricted. It's one of 4 cells in box 3. 7. Where does 7 go in box 3? Only in one of 2 places. 3, 7. I'm not sure I can do much more with this. We've got an 8, 9. Oh, see, yeah, it's almost like girth symmetrical placement where, you know, you sort of do the logic in one part of the grid and then you reverse it and do it at the bottom. We've got 1, 2, 3 here, 7, 8, 9 here. So that 9 in box 7 is in one of 4 places, 8 is in one of 4 places. I don't think this is taking me very far though. Maybe we've got to look at the blue clones now. Let's look at those. We've got, so these 2 are the same, and again the inequality signs are different. And this one has to be lower. Ah, yeah, okay. Okay, look, I've got a 9, 8, 7 in row 3. So what's the maximum value of this square? Well, it's 6. Now this is greater than that. So this now has a maximum value of 5. And we haven't checked what it does in this square where it's also... So here, it's got to be 5 or lower, and it's greater than those 3 squares. Which means... Oh, bobbins, look at that. I was about to say that's got to be a 5 or a 4, but I think 3 might work, although... Oh, no, that's beautiful. This is beautiful. Look, I was worried about 3 because these 3 squares don't have to be different digits. So you could have gone double 1 here or double 2 here, and that might have worked. But it doesn't actually work because if you try and go 3 here, what's true now is that these 3 squares have to be selected from the digits 1 and 2. And look what we've done now. We've broken the world, basically, because in column 3, I've got 3 cells that have to be 1 and 2, and in row 7, I've got 3 cells that have to be 1 or 2. Now, if you've got 3 cells and only 2 different digits to pick them from, you will axiomatically repeat a digit and break the rules of Sudoku. So that is not 3, and that means it is only, oopsie, I'm doing the wrong pencil marks, it is only 4 or 5. Which means that's only 4 or 5, which means this square, which is greater than 4 or 5, is only 5 or 6. Yeah, these 2 are much less restricted because they aren't. These 2 could explode and be really high, couldn't they? They don't see 7, 8, and 9. And maybe this square is the one to focus on now then, because these squares have a maximum value of 4 now. They've got to be 1, 2, 3 or 4. That can't be 3. This one can't be 1 or 2. Yeah, oh yeah, so it's similar, isn't it? There's some sort of symmetrical constraint going on between highs and lows. This one can't be particularly high, this one can't be particularly low, and between the two of them they sort of pinch these two inwards. Right, let's look at the other one then. So let's look at this one first. Now this again, oh yeah, this is the same. This still has the same restriction on it. So this square here again has a maximum value of 6. So this has a maximum value of 5 as well. So that has a maximum value of 5. And this has got to be greater than those 3 squares. But yeah, okay, and this one has a minimum value of 3, so this must be greater than 3. So that's also 4 or 5. This is so brilliant. I mean, it's ridiculously clever. So these, now we've got a 4-5 pair in row 4 and row 6, so that can't be a 4. And this square, now I've got a 5-6 pair. Oh, look at this. I've got a 5-6 pair in row 3 now, and that's looking at that square, which must now be a 4. Which means those 3 squares are a 1, 2, 3 triple. Ah, yeah, okay. And this is interesting because look at these squares. How many 5s are in those squares? Well, the answer is 2. There's definitely a 5 in that domino, and there's definitely a 5 in that domino. So there are 2 5s in this 2x2 region. Well, how many 5s are we anticipating there being in column 6 and column 7 of this grid? Well, if we correctly complete the puzzle, there's only going to be 1 5 in column 6, and there's only going to be 1 5 in column 7. So the 2 5s that we know exist in these 2 columns are definitely entirely comprised within these 4 cells. So there are no 5s in any of those squares, and that can't be a 5. That's interesting, because now I've got a 4, 5, 6 triple in column 7. Although that may not do much for me. Yeah, okay, but this square is the same, isn't it? This square is the same as this square. This 1, 2 means this is at least 3, and it can't be greater than 4, or it's going to break this square's inequality signs. Yeah, yes. Right, now I'm going to do the same thing again with 4s. In column 3 and column 4, there are 2 4s. There's 1 in this column, there's 1 in this column. We know that there are 2 4s in this foursome here, so there can't be any more 4s in the column. That can't be a 4. So this also has to be a 1, 2 or a 3, because it can't be a 4, and it's got to be, this square's got to be less than this one. But that won't work here because there's no, well, we can rule out 1, 2, yeah, no, okay, I'll just use the fact there's a 4, 5 pair, so it does work there. I'm talking absolute gibberish. But what I'm worrying about now is that I'm getting to the point where I've used all the clues. Hang on, what have we not appreciated about this puzzle? We've got... This is completely ridiculous. Ah, I've got a 3, 4 pair here, so that's not 4. Let's... What on earth do I do now? I'm so sorry if there's something obvious I'm missing here. It's very possible. But I don't immediately see what to do. I mean, I could pencil mark these, I suppose, but they seem to me at first blush to be, or to have an awful lot of optionality about them. Because they just have to be greater than some fairly middling numbers. So maybe that's what I've got to do though. So they could be, if this was a 4, it would absolutely be possible for one of these digits to be a 5, I think. 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh no, this is good lift level. So pencil, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I think we've got to somehow restrict this further. Otherwise, I'm just going to go into a barbaric world of nonsense. Oh, I see. Maybe I can do Sudoku, of course. Those two digits are the same, aren't they, because of the clone? Let's try that. Let's try and... Yes, I've made them a particularly unpleasant sludge colour. Now, where does sludge go in box... Oh, okay, yeah. Sludge in box 6 goes where? Well, it's not there, look. Because we know there's a 4, 5, 6 triple in column 7 already. So this is not sludge. Sludge must be in one of those two squares. And... okay. No, that's not the trick we were looking for. This is not the trick you were looking for. What have we got the other way round? Oh! Now this is more interesting, look. Because that's getting forced onto the crop key dot. Yes, these two squares have got to go in this domino here. So this has either got a 4 or a 5 on it. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, good grief. Right, what can you not put into this domino? The answer is a 4. Because if you do, what's your consecutive digit going to be? Well, we've got a choice. If it's 4 and 3, if this domino is 4 and 3, this square's got no value, because it can't be a 4 or a 3. If this is 4 and 5, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. We've got 3 cells in box 4 that have to be selected from 2 different digits. That will not work. So this is not 4, 5, and it must be 5, 6, therefore. So these have to be 5s, which means that's a 4, that's a 4, that's a 3. Good grief. Good grief. Now, with sludge is a 4, we've now learnt. 5 goes here, 6 goes here by Sudoku. This 6 is giving us this as a 4. Wow. Okay. So one of those two squares is a 4. We've got all of a sudden quite a lot going on in the grid, which is good. So we've got 5s in those squares. We've got 3s in one of these squares. Now that might be, if I can force 3 on here, that might be interesting. How do we get rid of a 3 from this cell? We need that to be a 3. How do we force this to be a 3? I don't know. There might be a way of doing that, but I don't see what it is. Now I might be prepared to pencil mark these in. At least they can't... none of these squares now can be a 5. So maybe that's what we should do. So these squares just have to be greater than 4 or 5, but they can't be 5. So there's 6, 7, 8s and 9s. I'm actually wondering now if this puzzle is about shading high versus low digits. That is possible, isn't it? So that's not 6. Oh, there's a 5, 6 pair there, so that's not 6. Nope. Unless I'm missing something, that is not breaking the puzzle open. Bobbins. But that square is interesting, because this square sees 1, 2, 3 and 4. Actually, it's 5 and 8 as well, so that square is quite restricted. And oh, good grief, and 6. This square can only be 7 or 9, I think. I'm going to double check that. So, it definitely sees a 1, 2 pair, a 3, 4 pair, a 5, a 6. So it's got to be 7, 8 or 9. It can't be 8. Yeah, that's a 7 or a 9. So we've almost got something interesting in row 4, look. Oh no, we have this square as well. This is right. This is unbelievable. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 looking at that square, and 7. So this is an 8 or a 9. But that's interesting because look at row 4 now. I've now got a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple, which means the other squares have got to be 1s, 2s, and 3s. And that means, look, I've got a 1, 2 pair in box 4 already, so that's a 3. So that's not a 3, that's not a 3. this square here is a 7, 8 or a 9, and it's not a 9, so that's a 7 or an 8. That means there's definitely a 9 in this domino, because in this triple here the 9 is definitely horizontal in row 4, I should say. Those therefore are not 9s. I've got a 1, 2, 3 triple in box 5. Is that worth? So maybe I've got to pencil mark this box fully then. I need 6, 7s, 8s and 9s into those squares. So that's not 6. Oh yeah, that gives me a 7, 8. Now I've got a 7, 8, 9 triple in row 5 along with a 5, 6. So these squares are 1s, 2s, 3s. Oh look, oh good grief, this is a 3. I hadn't noticed this, sorry. Oh, I don't think that's been there for very long. I think it's been there since I got this 3, hasn't it? Yeah, I got that 1, 2, 3 triple. And then when this became a 3, suddenly there was a revealed 1, 2 pair in column 9, which has given me a 3 here, which I've now seen. Yeah, and now this square is a naked single, because this square sees 1, 2 and 3 in the column, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the row, so that can only be 4. So sludge is 4 out of nowhere. That is not 4 anymore. And this square, in fact, there's a 4 up there, but this square here has to be a 1, 2 or a 3 by Sudoku. And it's not a 3 because of this 3. Oh, good grief. Now look at row 5 again. There's a 1, 2 pair now, so this square is sort of a hidden single. It's the only place 3 can be in row 5. So, whoa, so 3 is not there. So 3 is on the Kropki dot, which means 5 is not on the Kropki dot. Oh, because 5 is not consecutive with 3. And 4 is not consecutive with 3 because it is consecutive with 3, but it can't be the 3, 4 pair because of this 4. So that must be a 2, 3 pair. Which means I've now got a 1, 2, 3 triple in column 5 out of nowhere. And I've got to put a 4 in one of those squares. And what else? I've got a 1, 2 pair in column 8. I've got all sorts of things going on. But maybe I'm still stuck. Oh dear. Maybe I've got to look at this row. I have got to place 1s for, well, that square is a 1 or a 6 actually, because it sees 4 and 5. This square, oh, why did I think this can be a 4? It can't be. Oh look, yeah, sorry, I didn't see the sludge pencil, the sludge actual digit. That can't be a 4. I've got to put 4 in the corner, which actually doesn't do very much. But these squares now are from 1s, 5s and 6s. Let's look at that. So we've got a 1, 2 pair in column 3, so this is not 1. And we've got a Bobbins-worthy cell in row 9, column 2, which doesn't seem to actually be resolved at all. So even though we've done quite well in row 9, I don't think we actually know what's going on. Oh, look, column... yeah, no. Bother. I thought there was something going on in column 1, but there isn't. 1s, 2s, 7s and 8. Ah, that square's a 7 or an 8 because it sees a 1, 2 in the row. Good grief. So now that square's a 1 or a 2. Which also doesn't seem to do anything. No! Okay, so what do we do now? We can look at... don't know. 3 might be a bit restricted in this box, I think. I've got 3, 3 and 3. So 3 has got to be in one of those 2 cells, which is not actually surprising. So Can we do anything with that? Yeah, oh no, hang on, I can do something with that, you know, because there is a 1, 2, 3 triple in column 5 that I'd forgotten about. So that can't be a 3, so there's a 3 here. Now that gets, I see, that gets the 3 and the 2 resolved. So this square is no longer a 3. Oh, which would, actually no, I know how I could have done that much simpler. I could have just removed the 3 option from this square, and then I would have seen we had a 1, 2 pair. Oh, so sorry. I will be getting some grief for that, no doubt. 1, 2. Right, now look at box 2. And look at the 1, 2 pair here. So 1 and 2 are not in those 3 squares. Now we've also got a 1, 2 pair in column 5. So 1 and 2 is not there either. So the only places that 1 and 2 can live in this box are those 2 squares. So that's got to be a 1 or a 2. Now I've got a 1, 2 pair in column 4. And that's going to get me that digit, look. So the 1, 2 pair here rule out 1 from that square. So that's now a 6. That's a 5. And this is a 1. And look, this 5 is seeing this square. So that's 5. That's 6. That's 5. That's 6. Now we... Oh, look, and this 1 is not only doing business here, it's doing business here as well. That's now a 2. That's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 1. That's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 1. I don't believe it. 1, 2, 1, 2. I feel like we've just gone through the grid like a dose of salts there. We have all but... Now, well, if I've put that square in as a 2, because there's 4 2s looking at box 3, that is all of the 1s and all of the 2s just filled in a jiffy. Now that square's got to be a 7 or a 9 because of the column. 6 8s and 9s complete row or column 2. Look at that. I've got an 8 9 pair just left to put in this column. Have I done all of the... Have I sort of used all of the extra magical cells now? Or have I still got some magical cells to use? That's not a 7. We've got a 7 here. Threes. I can do better with 3s. Look, I can put a 3 in this box there. It's got to go there just by Sudoku. In fact, all of the 3s are done. Let's look at 4s. Oh, all of the 4s are most certainly not done. I've got 7 4s. Oh, okay. So I'm not going to be able to finish the 4s. I've got... These are aligning here. Bobbins. That's got to be a 7, 8 or a 9. Hang on, what have we missed here? I've got 6 digits in row 2. I need 4, 8 and 9 into the gaps. Whoops. That's not 4. I've got an 8 9 pair now in column 9, but that doesn't seem... Well, that means the remaining squares have got to be 5, 6 or 7. That one can't be 5. That one can't be 6. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. They're not resolved. Oh dear. I'm almost getting to the point where I've got a fully pencil marked grid here, which is disturbing. 6, I've got so many cells that seem to be able to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. That's 6, 8 or 9 there. Just going to double click some cells. 5s. 5s. There seems to actually be quite a lot of flexibility about 5s. Let's look at 6s instead. 6s have got to be in one of those 2 squares. 7s. I don't feel like I've put any 7s in the grid, all but no. 8s. I've got no. Oh, I've got 1 8 in the grid and 1 9. Oh, good grief. Oh, I've got a horrible feeling that either I'm missing something very simple or that the next step is going to be very hard. Let me stare at this for a second. What shall we say here? We've got... I don't know whether I should be looking for X-wings or I should be looking for something simpler than that. What I wouldn't do in this position though is guess. As you know, I don't like guessing, so I'm not going to guess. I'm sure we could force the solution by guessing, but that's not the point of cracking the cryptic. Just give me a sec. Sevens. Right, okay. Okay, I've got something. It's complicated, but it's something. I have a horrible feeling this isn't necessary, but anyway, let's look at these three squares, because they are a bent triple, look. 6, 7s and 8s. And if these were all in the same row of the Sudoku, we would instantly understand the implications of that. We would remove 6, 7 and 8 from the rest of that row or column. But here we can still do a little bit of magic, because this little square, the middle of the bent triple, the one that sees the other two squares, has quite an interesting effect. If it's 6 here, that's got to be 8. If it's 7 here, that's got to be 8. So we know for absolute certainty that in the finished grid, at least one of these two squares is an 8. So let's hunt in the grid for any cells that see those two squares. Well, one of them is this one. So this can't contain an 8 in the finished grid. If it did, let's see what would happen. If this was 8, that would be 6, that would be 7, this would have no possible fill. So this is not 8, but the really interesting square is that one, because if there's an 8 in one of those two, you can't have an 8 there, and therefore we get a digit. That's a 9. That's a 9. That's an 8. That's a 7. So that is an 8 after all that. That becomes a 7. They become a 6, 8 pair. The 8 here then bounces back in there. Look, gives us an 8 and a 6. Now this might be good, because that's now a 6 and that's a 5. Therefore this is an 8. So they were both 8s in the end. This 6 means that's a 9. So this can't be 8 or 9 anymore. This square is now a naked single. That's a 4. Therefore that's a 4, which means that's a 6 using our pencil marks. That's a 7. It's the only thing it can be. So now we've got an 8, 9 pair there. We've got a 6 here. We've got a... Nope. We've got a 7 here. We've got an 8 or a 9 here, which is a 9. That's an 8. That's a 9. This square's now a given. That's got to be a 6. This square's now a naked single. That's an 8. This is a 9. That's a 9. That's an 8. This is a 7. We've now got an 8, 9 pair there. So this square's got to be 5, I think. This square's got to be 8. Whoops. That square's got to be 9. And down here we're left with 7 and 5. So that's a 5 and that's a 7. And that is how to solve what is a remarkable, remarkable puzzle by Fuchsia. Absolutely ridiculous, that is. I'm staggered. I am staggered that that solves. And it solves beautifully, actually. It's really, really cute and very, very clever. The way that these... What I thought was really stunning was how this 1-2 pair and this 9-8-7 pair had such an amazing impact on these squares by limiting their sort of their wing squares in these two positions. It's just beautiful. It really is. Let me know in the comments how you got on with it. I'm going to be very interested to hear how people got on with this puzzle, and we'll be back later with a new edition of Cracking the Cryptic and maybe some streaming as well. Thanks for watching.